Welcome back to the Ed Morrissey Show. Joining us as always, the Prince of Twitter, the Regent of RedState.com, the quarterback of Red State's official Pro Bowl entry into the NFL. Andrew Malcolm, actually Jen Van Laar is probably the quarterback.
Yeah. Well, I'm calling an audible that we'll do an audible recording.
There you go. We're calling an audible. Omaha. I actually watched the Super Bowl. I went to a party, so we're watching this at a party. And generally speaking, we don't do a ton of watching during but this time I did. I actually watched a good bit of it. It was a little bit more. The party was a little quieter this year than it was. Pretty boisterous last year, but I didn't watch the Bad Bunny halftime show. I did see some commercials. They were some of them were fun. We had the volume muted, so I had to do the closed caption thing to capture that. We did turn up the volume for the Turning Point USA halftime show, the competing one, the alternative, the All-American halftime show, which was actually pretty good. I was very impressed. The production quality was great. The acts were good, and it was fun.
Good.
You didn't watch the game. You non-American, you.
Well, I've gotten away. I tried to watch, as you may have mentioned once or twice every day, my Cleveland team is not doing well in recent years, so they're not on. And I've started watching players or teams that are really good, because I love to watch, like surgical quarterbacks. Remember Drew Brees and Joe Montana and Patrick Mahomes, and so I've come to sort of appreciate that. And I don't care about either team yesterday. Nothing against them. I got nothing to watch except the New England coaches from Ohio, which is not a real reason to watch. so there's nobody except for that Jackson in Jigba.
Smith and Jigba. Yeah, a talented guy. What a great receiver he is, man.
Oh, yeah, he was wonderful. I loved him at Ohio State. But except for him, I didn't feel like there was anything. I did tape it, and I keep it until tonight. I might watch some of it tonight, because I hear the defenses were pretty good on Seattle's part.
Well, it's actually both teams.
Yeah, when I saw it was 6-0 near the half, I thought, "Oh my God!"
I think it finished at 9-0 at the half. I mean, I don't want to give away too much, but you know who already won the game.
Oh, I know everything. Yeah.
Okay. Here's the thing. We'll just start off with just the football part of this, right? And then we'll get into some of the cultural and political stuff. I saw a lot of griping during the game and afterwards that this was a lousy game. It was a terrible game. There was one really funny comment, which was that this was the Starfleet Academy of Super Bowls, the terrible Star Trek series that Paramount Plus now has. It's terrible. I wrote a review of it. I saw the first 3 episodes. Highly recommend that everybody avoid it like the plague. It is not Star Trek. But it was actually a good defensive game, and I guess I'm old school, Andrew. I mean, I guess I come from a different generation where we used to appreciate really good defense, and it wasn't that the offenses were screwing up; it's that the defenses were really good in that first half, and then New England's got worn down in the second half. You could see that the offense just wasn't on the field enough to keep the defense fresh, and it became apparent that that Seattle was just wearing them out. But I mean, the first half, it was really interesting, very competitive. I thought it was interesting, but the younger crowd, those kids, all they want to see is scoring. All they want to see is end zone dances. Get off my damn lawn.
Well, defense has always been my favorite part to play and to watch, because you get to screw things up. and Uh, you know, I remember my dad when he was teaching me to watch football. He said, "No, watch the linebacker. Now he's going to see something, and then he's going to know what's happening." And so when I played in high school, and when I did the same thing. You'd see a running back did the same thing, wipe his hands off every time he was going to get the ball, so you knew what was going to happen. I love those kinds of things. It's kind of like Arthur Conan Doyle way of watching watching football, I guess, deducing things. I appreciate that. So if the defense is good, maybe I'll watch the first half tonight. After all,
Well, and again, I mean, I'm not telling people that they're going to love it, but if you appreciate both sides of the football in NFL
yeah,
football, it was actually a pretty good game, and it was competitive down to the end because New England finally started breaking through and scoring as well. Um, but the offense gave up a touchdown at one point, and it's just it was a tough game for New England. They really worked hard to get there. They had both teams had lousy seasons the year before. Both teams really came back this year. It was
and Vrabel, the New England coach, he's to do all this, getting the Super Bowl so quickly as the coach. That's quite an achievement.
yeah.
And
I mean, both coaches, right? Mike McDonald at
I don't
with the
know about him.
Seahawks. I think it's only his second season
Uh,
as head coach. Same thing, and he started off as an intern, right? I mean, so it's
yeah, yeah. Well, those kind of things that they spice isn't the word, but they populate games with human elements. Those things are fascinating. I think, like the Lindsey Vonn story, which ended badly, but the Lindsey Vonn story in the Olympics and those sorts of human elements. Uh, just one quick story. It wasn't the Super Bowl. It was a playoff game uh, in Cleveland against the Jets, the Browns and the Jets. I was covering it actually for the New York Times. And it was the Browns were 10 points behind with just a little bit of time left. So the escort was taking us down from the press box to get on the field and get ready to go into the locker room. So I was standing in the end zone, uh, or by the end zone when they had their fantastic comeback. It was amazing to see. And Ernest Biner scored a touchdown. It was very cold and muddy, and I was standing there. He came crashing through the line on a short run and came right at me. And of course, the crowd went crazy, and he was not very far away from me, maybe 5 or 6 feet. And he looked at me. He was all sweaty, and his steam was coming off his skin. He looked at me, and he winked. It's like a quiet communication, but because I guess he knew I was a fan. Uh, Probably because I was jumping up and down, which is unprofessional as a reporter, but I was. Anyway, that's my story. So I think with your review, I'll probably watch the first half tonight.
yeah. Watch the first half. Take a look at some of the commercials. There were some fun commercials. I think my favorite of the ones that I actually saw was probably the Dunkin' Donuts one, which they de-aged a bunch of these stars that were in famous 1990s sitcoms. And
Oh,
so like Jennifer Aniston was there. It was Ben Affleck was sort of the
oh,
lead actor of this, but they de-age everybody. So it's sort of like Friends and Seinfeld and Cheers and um, Tom Brady makes an appearance in there. It's a really funny appearance in there. I don't know that they're going to sell donuts, but it was actually a clever, inventive
yeah.
ad that had me chuckling. That's fun. It was just fun.
I happened to write about the Super Bowl yesterday.
I was going to bring this up. Yeah, I mean,
In the
I want to
column,
roll
yeah,
into that. Yeah.
yeah. But I was and I asked the question, which there's no answer to, I suppose, except maybe cost. But why are the ads so bad during the year? Well, why are they so compelling just on one day of the year? It seems to me creative people in advertising agencies could could pull some things off and really stick out. I mean, if they did something clever in the fall, get a lot of attention. But they
Well,
save it all. They save it all for February.
well, it's because it costs a lot of money to do that ad. I mean, it must have cost
I
them a
know.
fortune to do that ad just from the talent costs. I mean, there were
Isn't
a
that
lot of people.
isn't
There were a
that
lot of people in there with high price tags. I'm just going to say that.
aren't they? Isn't that AI? No.
No. Those. I mean, the de-aging, I think, is probably an AI process. I'm sure it's somewhat automated now. It didn't used to be, but I'm sure it's it's obviously it's a CGI thing. I don't know how much human input goes into that, but you have to pay the actors.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's expensive, right? And a lot of these things were you saw, there was this whole thing with it's sort of a gag that really ran its course even before the because some of these people are previewing these Super Bowl ads with like pre-Super Bowl ads, and State Farm did that with the Halfway Insurance Company ads. They started running these things about a month ago, and it has Danny McBride and I can't think of the guy's name now, another funny character actor who are running the Halfway Insurance Company, where they only really they basically do a half-baked job of insuring you and of doing the ads, right? And the big gag, I don't want to give away the big gag. There is a celebrity appearance at the very end of the one that they ran in the Super Bowl. And I don't want to give it away, but they set it up very nicely. But, but it's sort of like the joke was, they had 2 or 3 of these different ads. The joke was already over. You knew what the joke was.
They want to amortize the costs, right? They get more use out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, they're going to run these ads for weeks at least now after this to do just
the
that.
thing I missed, I have to look it up. The Clydesdale ads. I love.
They had one, and it was a good one.
Yeah.
They also previewed that one.
There aren't any bad ones. I mean,
well,
little Clydesdale ponies. I mean, chasing and wanting to be a big time.
Well, great. This one was. I'll say this because it shouldn't be a spoiler because they actually released this one ahead of the Super Bowl again, but it involved a Clydesdale rescuing an eaglet in the snow, and as you see the eaglet on the back of the Clydesdale, and the montage goes, the eaglet is getting bigger, and finally the Clydesdale's leaping over a log, and the eagle, fully grown eagle, spreads its wings so it looks like the horse has wings. Then all of a sudden the eagle takes off, right? And what's best about this, and I think they added this part for the Super Bowl, is because the preview I saw it sort of ended there. Obviously Budweiser ad. You got to remember who, if you're selling a product, you got to remember the product is. And the funny part about that was, and I think they added this specifically for Super Bowl Sunday, it shows these 2 old guys like sort of staring out, they're apparently watching this happen. And the one guy's choking up and he says, "Are you crying?" "No." No.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah. It was fun.
Budweiser has a lot of ground to regain, but well, I'm glad. I'll look up the Clydesdale ad, and I love the flyovers. Those are things I've watched that about 10 times already.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the hype, right? And part of the hype was, the Super Bowl. The halftime show at the Super Bowl. And this is where I think
not accidental. Yeah.
Not accidental. No, they hired Bad Bunny, who's a Puerto Rican rap artist. And he started 4 months ago, he started saying, "I give everybody 4 months to learn Spanish because I'm not going to sing in English at the Super Bowl." And then he's been talking about using it as a platform against immigration and customs and enforcement and all this kind of stuff. And they really pulled, the politics into this, which is also part of the hype apparently that the NFL wants. Now, I will say this. Jim Garrity actually wrote a really interesting column today about why the NFL did that, why they did the Spanish only part, which honestly, I didn't really care that much about that. I actually like Spanish language music. I can't understand a word of it. I like Irish music, and I can barely understand a word of that when it's sung. It's one thing to know Irish, but you can't decipher it when it's being sung. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Where's the Gary column?
Garrity columns at National Review, and he was saying
Jim Garrity.
Jim Garrity, right?
Yeah.
And he was saying, and I think this is smart and interesting, is that Roger Goodell sees the American market as saturated. Everybody who's going to tune into football in America already tunes in to the Super Bowl. And even the people who don't watch football on a regular basis will tune into the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
So they're trying to expand this through Latin America, especially, and a little bit into Europe. And so having a Spanish language halftime show kind of makes sense in that sense. And again, you can still like the music even if you don't understand the lyrics. Now, the lyrics turned out to be not safe for work, I guess. If it was actually translated, it probably wouldn't have passed muster for a broadcast. In English. But I mean, I don't have an issue with Spanish language music. I think Ricky Martin did at least one Spanish language song when he did a Super Bowl, and nobody complained about that. What I have an issue with is making it so overtly hostile to its American audience by scolding people over immigration enforcement, which is very popular in the United States for good reasons, and doing the whole ICE out thing, or at least encouraging it. I guess it didn't get a specific mention during the show itself, but the run up to it was all about lecturing people. And to me, we were just talking about Budweiser needs to make up ground here. I'd argue that this, and I do argue in a post that's going to come up later tonight, it'll be up by the time people see this, is that basically this is the same strategy as Bud Light, is trying to expand your audience beyond your existing base by insulting your existing base and throwing them under the bus. I mean, I get the strategy, and I think Jim's right. I think that's exactly what they were trying to do, and Jim's a smart guy, and I think he picked up on that. It's a really interesting call.
Well, yeah,
I don't disagree with them, but the problem is the way they did it is off-putting to the people who already buy the product, and that's Bud Light, that's Gillette. Gillette's actually an even bigger example of this. I mean, Bud Light's the one that's sort of like the poster child for this stupid strategy, but Gillette burned down $8 billion in value by running the ads that, basically accused its male custom consumer base of being sexist pigs and sexual predators and bullies. I don't, this was a few years back. They still haven't recovered from that. People just stopped buying Gillette. And
that's the way you vote in a free enterprise society. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, the expansion has been clear. Roger Goodell wants to do that with the European games, and then they added in South America and Mexico. I guess they're going to go back to Mexico. There were 7 foreign games last fall. And this year there will be 8, and they're on the way to 16. And guess what that means? There will be a 16-game package to sell to foreign broadcasters for billions of dollars. So there's a financial reason for it. It's obviously it's not cultural and not trying to be inclusive. And then of course there's the gear, the NBA. I mean, you see pictures of poor kids in Africa, and they're wearing NBA jerseys. So the idea is to expand it globally. There's a lot of people that won't care, and that's fine. It's just that it seems like all this attention to get Spanish viewers, which they got a lot of last year anyway, to get Spanish viewers and to get abroad and to create controversy and to fight racism and all this stuff. It just, and this was the point of the column, all the hype and the extra stuff seemed to me it's personal, but it seemed to me to detract from the game. The game becomes herky-jerky because of all these commercials, and I understand they're paying a lot of money, but they're also making a lot of money. And I tried to watch 2 or 3 NFL games last fall that I have just because it's football, and I wanted to see how they were playing, and I quit before the halftime because there were just so many ads. It was so herky-jerky. There was no momentum to the game. And I'm sure the players were playing well, and I'm sure the ads paid well, and the NFL made a lot of money, and Fox and CBS. But it just seemed to me that we were losing sight of the game. Not that the old days are always the best, but maybe a little more moderated on the commercial side would be helpful for those of us who are football fans. For those who are just there for the ads, well, I guess it's wonderful. I don't know.
Well, I don't even mind the ads. Part of the problem is that the game has got more. Go ahead.
They score a touchdown and they go away for an ad. They come back and kick an extra point, and then you go away for ads. I mean, there's just no. I understand they want to fill the time when they're lining up for the kickoff and all that, but geez, it's like, oh, that's good, and then you get 8 seconds of action, and then you got a minute and a half of somebody paying a fortune for a commercial. Those commercials, they had different prices, but the most expensive one was $333,000 per second.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you get a billion sets of eyes on the product, right? I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem.
I guess it makes sense. Hopefully, Budweiser is available, or whoever is paying that money is available wherever all the eyes are. But
so it's $10 million for a 30-second spot. That was the most expensive spot.
Right.
I want to come back to this because it matters in just a second. But just as a thought experiment, how many Budweiser beers do you have to sell to come out ahead on a $10 million investment? How many bottles of beer is that? I mean, what is it, like $2 a beer now if you're buying it at the store? It's like $8 if you buy it at the bar, but I mean, maybe $3.
Guess what? At the Super Bowl, it was $17 for a can.
Yeah, well, that's the Super Bowl. I'm talking about when you're. You have to sell a lot of beer to make that worthwhile. I get it. I get it. Budweiser needs the help. But here's the issue, and this is where it got interesting. The reason why the NFL doesn't have to worry so much about the Bud Light or the Gillette impact on their business, I think it's an issue, but it's nowhere near as acute as it would be for those, is because there really isn't a competitor to the NFL. I mean, even the NBA doesn't really compete with the NFL. The schedules overlap, but the NFL is a market unto itself. The Super Bowl is an event unto itself. It's unlike anything else in sports. Of
the 20 most watched television broadcasts, except for Neil Armstrong stepping on the moon, of the 20 most watched broadcasts, 20 were NFL games and Super Bowls.
Yeah. So, but here's the interesting part, is that what isn't unique and a market unto itself is actually the halftime show. People don't necessarily have to stick around for the halftime show. And this year was the first year that anybody seriously tried to counter program the halftime show. And this is Turning Point USA.
Yeah, good point.
I watched that. I was very surprised at how good the production values were on this. This is a professional, high-tech presentation. It was good. The acts were good. I didn't really know, other than Kid Rock, I didn't know who the rest of those people were, but that's pretty much true for me for every halftime show for the last 15 years. It's like, Bad Bunny, what the hell is that? Is that the Energizer thing? I don't know. I was joking around at the Super Bowl party I was at. Hey, when's Rotten Rabbit coming on? It's Creepy Coney. When's Creepy Coney's shows start? I think I also called them Horrible Hair. And people were going, you mean Bad Bunny? Oh, that's right, Bad Bunny.
Wile E. Coyote, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who. The halftime shows aren't really aimed at me, and I get that too. I mean, I think the last time the Rolling Stones were on, people were going, "Who are they trying to? Who are they trying to attract with this? Shouldn't they be aiming at younger fans to bring younger fans into the sport?" And I think that was a wise decision. Start looking at, they brought in Jay-Z as a partner for halftime shows, and while I don't think Jay-Z is a particularly charming guy, that was the direction that they needed to go. They needed to be looking at younger acts that are popular with younger people to keep the sport going. That makes a lot of sense to me. So I'm used to the fact that I don't know what the lyrics are. I don't know what the hell they're saying. They did. I don't know the names of the people. They did The Weekend, and I was thinking, what do you mean The Weekend? Isn't this already on a weekend? No, that's the act name. The Weekend is the guy's name. It's like, I'm going to launch my rap career. I'm going to call myself Monday, and everybody will hate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I'll call myself Friday, and everybody will love it. Oh, it's Friday.
Oh, that's funny. That is very funny.
But I mean,
well, I haven't watched the halftime show. I admit. That's when the water pressure goes down in my house. I haven't watched it since Janet Jackson's intentional nip slip.
Oh yeah, I watched that one live too. That was interesting. I wasn't actually aware of what happened until it hit the news. I was thinking, what was that? And then it hit the news. I was like, oh yeah, that's bad.
What has that got to do with? It's got to do with publicity.
Well, I mean, it's a show. It's a show. It's a spectacle. I get that too. Yeah. But here's the thing: the Turning Point USA show was better.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear.
And here's the other thing:
maybe they'll do that every year.
This is that's exactly what's going to wind up happening. Is they're going to start counter programming against the halftime show at the NFL. This is the first year that it's been tried, and they had something like 5 or 6 million people concurrently watching it at once on YouTube, and on some other. It was on Rumble. It was on a couple of other platforms. But I think in the aggregate, they had something like 6.1 million people watching it at the same time. Now, that may seem like small numbers against a billion eyeballs for the game, but anytime you're losing viewers.
Yeah, it's a beginning.
It's a beginning. But anytime you're losing viewers, advertisers are going to notice, and they're going to say, you know what? We're not going to pay $10 million for a 30-second spot during halftime because, they don't, I think there's a commercial break in the middle of the halftime show too. I wouldn't know because I didn't watch it yesterday. I watched part of the Turning Point USA thing. And, but, on either end of it too, and advertisers are going to look at that and go, yeah, we need a discount on those spots in those hours because we're not interested in paying the premium rate when people are going to start leaving to look at other stuff.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I mean, that's the way the market balances these things out. There was pushback when all the players were kneeling, and there wasn't any of that. So they're still woke at the NFL, but it's less obvious now.
Yeah.
As it should be.
Well, as it should be. Absolutely. I am sure that the Super Bowl is immune to most of these impacts. I really am. I think that right now they can pretty much have impunity on this type of woke stuff. They can get away with it for a while at least. But here's the other part of this, and I think that this is something that is going to increasingly be a problem, is that people aren't playing football as much as they used to because of all the issues with CTE and the other stuff, and parents getting skittish about letting their kids, compete.
And hence getting flag football in the Olympics. Yeah, that's
Yeah, that to me is the NFL being smart and seeing where the future is going to be.
Absolutely, yeah.
They're using flag football for the Pro Bowl to keep injuries down, which is a tacit admission that this is a dangerous sport and maybe too dangerous to sustain itself. So they're already looking at ways to get around that. All right. what else have we got on tap here? There's lots of stuff going on. We had the stuff with with the Epstein files, but you had
Yeah.
one other thing. I want to bring this up, and we'll wrap up on this, and we'll get to the jokes of the week. On February 5th, which was on Thursday, you had your VIP commentary. We can never go soft on deporting illegals, even if it becomes unpopular. And it's not. It's not becoming unpopular. It's
Yeah.
still as popular as it was. But I'm curious as to your approach on the popularity issue.
Well, by popular, I meant,
Polling.
yeah, well, yeah, polling, which the numbers had weakened a little bit on it because of the seeming over enthusiastic ICE agents' actions, but which of course are debatable and controversial. But this reminded me very much of the Vietnam War era, and I covered some of those demonstrations, many of which ended up violent. What you don't see in the coverage of Minneapolis and so forth, you see them muscling some protester away, and then unfortunately 2 of them got shot. What you don't see is the provocation that led up to it. They don't show that, and it's not fair if you're going to be covering the news. There's a lot of vile stuff which is said and done and spit and thrown at these places to provoke the authorities. That's what do you think they wear shields for?
Yeah.
Back in the Vietnam War days, they would, the old radio antennas on cars that were like whips that telescoped into the car. They would rip those off, extend them, and use them like rapiers and swing them and slash people with them. And that's the kind of provocation that went on that you don't see you don't see it in the coverage of it. It's a thing in sports where there's a penalty called, and it's usually the retaliation. The officials miss, especially in hockey. They miss the instigating thing, but they call the reaction to it, and that's what happens in these protests. And so, by unpopular, I guess what I meant was controversial and weakening in the polls. But we really have to pursue this, and I'm sure we will as far as Trump is concerned. He said last week, there was a quote, he said, I guess this isn't exact, but we could use a little softer approach. And then he added, but we still have to be firm. So I think that's right, to modulate it, and I think that's why he sent in Holman. But you remember, you don't see any of these protests and violence when Obama was deporting 1.5 million people a year.
No. And here's the thing about this too, is that the violent clashes with ICE are almost entirely in 9 different jurisdictions, 9 different cities or counties, depending on, I think it's counties is how the data was collated. 9 counties: Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, and I don't know the names of the counties, but these are the cities that are in the counties. Seattle, which would be King County, actually. I know Seattle's King County. I forget what Portland is. Hennepin, Minneapolis. I think that data may be both Minneapolis and St. Paul, though. So it'd be Hennepin and Ramsey. And maybe they're counting both in the 9. Cook County, Chicago, Philadelphia, and I think New York City. There's always one that I think I've left off, but here's where they're not: Atlanta, Washington, Dallas, Albuquerque, Phoenix. The reason why is because those jurisdictions cooperate with ICE. They will honor detainers in the jails, whereas the rest of these jurisdictions do not, because they're enforcing sanctuary policies which forbid police departments from cooperating with ICE. And so they release these people back out and force ICE to go out and get them. And that's the difference. roughly 70% of all violent ICE encounters take place in those 9 jurisdictions.
Yeah.
And there's thousands of other counties in the United States where it's not an issue because those counties cooperate with federal law enforcement in handing over criminals who have been arrested who turn out to be illegal aliens and who have detainers.
In blue places, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not even all the blue places, right? I mean, Washington, D.C. is very blue. Of course, Washington, D.C. has a federal jurisdiction, but I mean, Baltimore's not on that list. Baltimore's a blue area. Richmond, Virginia is not on that list. And in Northern Virginia, there's a fairly large Hispanic population, and there's illegal aliens that are living in there and working in there and doing all sorts of things. They don't have that issue. Again, it's close to Washington, D.C., so there's more cooperation with the federal government. But you can pick other places where that are blue states, but yet don't prevent cooperation with ICE.
Which is that's the responsible attitude.
It's exactly correct. It's exactly correct. You wouldn't have this issue if Hennepin County and Ramsey County in the Twin Cities had been cooperating with ICE and had been transferring detainees with immigration warrants back to ICE. They weren't doing it. Tim Walz was saying, "Oh, we're doing that." They were doing it with the prisons. Once they got out of prison, they would hand them over to ICE, but not with the jails, which is where most of them end up. Most of the ones that are, committing crimes, they're in jail, but they would just release them back out of jail until they were convicted of something. And then they would hold them in prison. And at that point, they don't have really a whole lot of choice. They had to cooperate with ICE on those things, but they're not cooperating at the street level. And this is what happens. So I agree with you. All right, let's get to the jokes of the week. You've got one, I've got two. So I'll let you go first. Yeah.
Well, there's a bunch of guys who, they end up during the football season having lunch on Monday or Tuesday and going over the Monday night football game and their thoughts on it. So there's 10 guys that are good friends for years. And when they turned 40, they said they would go to lunch. Let's all go to lunch once a year together. They all get together. And so they went to this one restaurant because they went to this one restaurant because the waitresses were hot, they said. And so they did that. 10 years later. Yeah, it's a good reason. 10 years later at 50, they went back and they should meet for lunch, and because the food was good and the wine selection they found was excellent. Okay. And then 10 years later at 60, they gathered again at the same restaurant because they could dine in peace and quiet, and they had a good view of the ocean. And 10 years later at 70, the group decided to go to lunch again together, and they selected the same restaurant because it was wheelchair accessible and it had an elevator. And 10 years later at 80, the old friends, they went back to the same restaurant because they'd never been there before.
That's good. I like that. That's very good. All right, I've got two for you. I'll hold off on the Super Bowl one until the end because I think we may have used this one before, but it's still good. But before I get to the Super Bowl, yeah, exactly. Nobody's keeping score. Sort of like the Super Bowl. Or it's sort of like the Pro Bowl. Nobody really keeps score. Yeah. All right. So first joke, a woman who's feeling overweight, she's really concerned about her weight, goes to see the doctor, and the doctor says, "I'm going to put you on a diet. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to eat regularly for 2 days, then skip a day. Then eat regularly for another 2 days and skip a day. Eat regularly for another 2 days and then skip a day. I'll see you in 3 weeks. And by that point in time, you should have lost 5 pounds." So the woman comes back after three weeks and she's lost 20 pounds. And the doctor says, "That's amazing. Did you follow my instructions?" And she says, I followed your instructions to the letter. I'll tell you though, I thought I was going to drop dead that first third day. And the doctor says, "You mean from hunger?" She says, "No, from all the skipping." All right. And here's the Super Bowl joke because we got to work in a Super Bowl joke here. Man had 50-yard line tickets for the Super Bowl. And as he sat down, he noticed that the seat next to him was empty. And he asked the man on the other side, he says, well, is anybody coming? And he says, no, the seat's going to be empty. And he says, well, that's strange for the Super Bowl. And the guy says, the guy says, who in their right mind would have a seat like this for the Super Bowl and not use it? And the man says, well, look, actually, the seat belongs to me. I was supposed to come with my wife, but she passed away. This will be the first Super Bowl we haven't been together since we got married in 1967. And the first man goes, oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. That's terrible. But couldn't you find someone else, a friend or a relative or even a neighbor to take the seat? Man shakes. He says, no, they're all at the funeral.
That is an excellent one. I don't remember that one.
Maybe we haven't done that one, but jokesoftheday.net. I love jokesoftheday.net. There's always some fun jokes there to use. So, all right. Well, Andrew Malcolm,
I posted on Twitter a picture. It was amazing to me of a $3,400 Super Bowl seat. There was a brief video on it, and Ed, you couldn't make out the players.
Yeah,
it was so
nosebleed.
Oh my God, it was amazing. Who would pay? But obviously somebody did. $3,400. You need binoculars just to see the numbers. It's I can't believe it. And with all the stuff you get on TV, it's so much better experience to not go. Oh, and the parking, if you wanted to be up close, it was $3,300, Ed.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's out of my range. I'll just say that right now.
When you get VIP parking at a NASCAR race, it's $10. Yeah. It's like 50 feet to your seat. Anyway, well, that was good. I love that joke, Ed. That is a good one. That I'm gonna use that one. We'll save that for next year too.
Yeah, we're gonna tell that one in every Super Bowl Super Bowl show here.
Every Super Bowl, yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, Andrew Malcolm, the Prince of Twitter, the regent of RedState.com, as well as the head coach of Red State's Super Bowl team, RedState.com. Go check that out. And we will be back here next week, minus the Super Bowl stuff.
Yeah, we will. And thanks, Ed. Thanks, everybody. See you later.